Hello class, this is Harrison Montiel. I'm going to be your professor for this semester for this online trigonometry course. Today we're going to be doing section 1.1, which is the distance and midpoint formula. But before we do that, I'd like to address the Cartesian coordinate system for you guys, just so you guys, a quick refresher for you. This point right here is called the origin. That is where the x-axis and the y-axis intersect, or it's also known as the coordinate 0, 0. This is quadrant number 1, where the x-coordinate is positive and the y-coordinate is positive. This is quadrant 2, where the x-coordinate is negative and the y-coordinate is positive. Quadrant 3, of course, where both are negative. And this is quadrant 4, where x is positive and the y-coordinate is negative. Just real quick to plot a point, if I gave you the point 3, negative 5, we could plot that easily, and I'll use that same graph, but I'll use a color. So 3, negative 5 tells me to go from the origin over 3 and then down 5. So this is the point. This is the point, 3, negative 5. All right. From here, I want to talk about our first topic, and that's the distance formula. And the distance formula is pretty simple. It's one you may have used already. It's going to be very useful when you go on to higher levels of math. And it states this. It says that the distance between 2 points, and we'll call the first point P1 with the coordinates x1, y1, and P2, which we'll call x2, y2. And it's denoted, so you might see it on a quiz or a test, denoted as d, lowercase, of P1, P2, and that's simply stating that it's the distance from one point to another. That formula is going to be this one. It is the square root of the second x-coordinate minus the first x-coordinate squared of the second point and the first point, plus the y-coordinate from the second point minus the y-coordinate from the first point, that quantity squared. Let me give you a quick example. So if I gave you something like let's say I gave you 2, 3 as point 1, and point 2 I gave you to be 3, 1. The distance then would be the distance of P1, P2 would be the second point, x, minus the first one, which is the 2, squared, plus the y from the second point minus the y from the first point, all of that square rooted. Well, that would give me 1 squared plus a negative 2 squared under the square root, and that would yield 1 plus 4 under the square root, and that distance would be a square root of 5 units away. That's the distance formula. That's something that's going to be important and you guys should know. The other one that you guys will need to know is the midpoint formula. And the midpoint formula goes like this. Here's what it says. It's basically finding the middle point between 2 points. So it says the midpoint, we'll call it capital M, of x, y of the line segment from point 1, which is, again, x1 comma y1, that subscript's going to always be used to denote the first point. And P2, and that will be that subscript of 2, will be this. It's going to be the midpoint, that coordinate xy is going to be the first x plus the second x divided by 2, and then comma, the first y plus the second y divided by 2. Basically, 2 points. To find the midpoint, we're going to take the average of each of those points and find it. And so let's do a quick example. I'll write that down for you guys. Let's say that I gave you P1 was -5, 5, and I wanted to find the midpoint to P2, which is 3, 1. All we do is we'd add those points, so we get the midpoint would be -5 plus 3 divided by 2 for the x, and then 5 plus 1 divided by 2 for the y. And that would tell me that the midpoint, the resulting midpoint, would be a -2 over 2 and a 6 over 2, and then these guys would divide, right, to give me a -1 and 3. This would be the resulting midpoint. And there you go. Just really simple. If you guys have any questions or need more examples on this, by all means, please ask. But this is section 1.1 in a nutshell. Good luck.